Meet girl online. We speak back and forth. Sends me pics. Make sure she's not catfishing me. Ask her to send me a pic of her holding specific object. She verifies it. Speak to her on the phone, and even FaceTime. Still feel like something is off and artificial about her. All her pics seem off still. Realize they are all AI generated. What the fuck did I just stumble into? This one's a long one, so strap in. I don't normally comment on X, just lurk most of the time, but I saw this thread and figured why the fuck not, I'll post. I had 3 different events. Might have to post them separately, might not post all of them if I get tired of typing. I suck at greentext, by the way, so I'll just type it out. The first event I had was when I was a kiddo, although I didn't realize it until I was older, but my parents and school teachers did. Before 9/11, I was always drawing cities, and would put the Twin Towers in them, burning. Although I was like 4 at the time and I had never even seen them or heard of them, I did this in my agenda notebook, on the desk, on paper at home, all the time. Nobody thought anything of it until 9/11 happened, and then everyone was very quiet around me. They would try to be really nice to me. They wanted me to draw something other than burning towers. They never told me what, they just told me to draw whatever I wanted. Don't really remember much beyond that though. Fast forward about a decade and a half. I find my old agenda notebooks in the closet, and see 9/11 scribbles all over them from time periods far before 9/11. I finally went and asked my parents about it, and they were extremely squirmy on the subject. But finally, they had told me that I was drawing all of this before 9/11, and they were hoping I would just forget. They told me that my mother apparently predicted a bunch of plane crashes between the 60s and the 80s to excruciating detail, down to the exact locations they would hit, although she lost this ability when I was born. Apparently my grandmother and my great-grandmother had the same ability to varying degrees. It's really made me question a lot of shit ever since though, to the extent that I seriously worry about my own thoughts. Story 2. Significantly after this, but before rediscovering this weird life event of mine, I had another incident take place. I had the day off and had gone to sleep. Although, once I had awoken in my dream, I didn't realize I was asleep. I lived out day after day, week after week, month after month, in this dream that I didn't even know was a dream. However, it was not a good one. Eventually, at some distant future point, the space station was deorbited. I do not know if this was intentional, or if it was normal orbital decay, or if it was even the ISS and not just one of the Chinese stations. However, shortly after this, there was a limited nuclear exchange in which 36 nuclear weapons were detonated in the Texas Gulf region. I am unsure what happened with the rest of the country though, but I imagine it was catastrophic. Services never came back. Shortly after this came airstrikes. No idea from who. It honestly looked like some variant of Su-30 Russian planes. Only a few, however, before those two eventually stopped. About a week after this, it got horrific. There were a bunch of anvil clouds that seemingly developed out of nowhere, and large spacecraft were seen in them, not emerging Independence Day style, but as if the cloud itself was some kind of portal, and these ships were sort of halfway loitering, halfway in, halfway out of the portal. The ships were large, angular, brick-shaped, but had no real texture to speak of. They were a sort of stone, slate gray, and they just sat there. We never saw anything come out of them. All we remembered were the screams from everywhere, and these monsters that would peel the skin from children and parents and wear their skin, and they were capable of perfectly imitating the voices of the people whose skin they took. They did this to lure people out of their hiding spots and take them. Killing yourself to escape them would not work. They could reanimate the dead. If you killed yourself to escape, it wouldn't work. They could reanimate the dead and keep you on some sort of life support for the sake of experimentation. I don't know why or how, but somehow I knew that if they took you, you were theirs forever. There was no escape. However, they also had large facilities on the earth. They looked like normal warehouses, but the ones who wore people's skin were inside these. They would liquefy humans in here and keep them in devices that looked similar to dryers, and each liquefied human was kept in their own. We had a hand scanner we could use to find out where our person's remains were, so we could steal them, so that they couldn't reconstitute their remains and make them suffer. Somehow, we could reconstruct the entire person back to what they were with this liquid. However, the ones who wore people's skin had these large pools ringed with symbols that looked similar to Zoroastrian dogmas, and they would fill these pools with people's liquefied remains and bathe in them, and their children would bathe in them and drink them, and they would try throwing people in, and if you fell in, you were one of them. This went on until most of the human race had been wiped out. I do not remember most of what happened, as this was a single dream spanning almost 72 years. Eventually, though, their spacecraft were destroyed. Most of life on Earth was destroyed. It had become a large desert. I remember there were still alligators, though, and whatever had transpired had killed the sun. It was slowly dying, as if perhaps they had siphoned energy from it to escape. I don't know if anyone intervened on our behalf, but I think someone did. But I remember I was walking with a girl in a blue dress. She was my wife. I don't have a wife in real life, mind you. But anyways, me and my wife in the blue dress were walking down the road. There was a small ditch on the left side with a few alligators in it, and a line of trees on the other following ditch. We were walking home, and there were bits of these spacecraft everywhere. The sun looked like it was setting, but it wasn't. Damaged or something, as I stated in previous posts. But we finally got home, and it was getting close to nighttime. Then I remember her whispering to me very quietly, "We need to be quiet and turn all the lights off or they'll see us." We did this, and saw lights on the horizon slowly blinking out one by one. I don't know if the lights were really close to us or not, but I could swear I heard distant screaming, like there was a reason their lights were going off, as though even in our victory, we were still being hunted. I do not know what our enemy was. We all just called it them. I woke up after this, and realized I had been asleep for almost 14 hours. Normally I sleep for 7.5, oddly specific, and that this 72 years of mine had all somehow been a complex fabrication of my imagination. However, every single event leading up to this has happened so far. Again, every single last one. And I fear that either I am once again in the long dream, or that it has become reality this time, and we are about to see tribulation. Russian invasion of Crimea, Iraq falling apart and returning to a fractured state, Syrian intervention. The next things to come along are that the rest of the Middle East falls apart. Not just what we're already seeing, but Jordan, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, Iran, pretty much everything except Israel. Eventually a space station, no idea which one or when or how, will deorbit. A war between Russia and the US is going to kick off. It's inevitable. Russia is going to invade up through Mexico. The red line is how far into the US they end up advancing due to aid from the native Mexican population, initiating an insurrection due to increased nationalism and a weak quasi-breakup of the US following a civil war. The green circle is a flashpoint where Russia didn't invade at first. They stayed on the side of the ship channel until finally attempting to cross it, and that's when things go nuclear. 36 nuclear weapons are exchanged in and around the green circle. I have no idea how many are exchanged elsewhere, as that is the last time we have internet or TV ever again. Many other electronic devices and vehicles still worked, however. Mostly older ones, though, and for some reason, as I said, the hand scanner for finding humans worked. Russia does a few more airstrikes with aircraft that I assume were hardened against the initial nuclear exchange, although very quickly stopped as I imagine they likely ran out of fuel or some such other reason. Very soon after this is when the ships arrived. They were able to reanimate the bodies if they're flesh. I don't think they can if they've been dead for a long time or in the ground for a while, but I think there's about a 1-week window that they still can. I wouldn't advise killing yourself though, obviously. I'm not sure what they looked like. They were always wearing human skin when I saw them, although it was sort of loose and they would walk upright like humans, but they could run faster than any human, and even faster on all fours. Even the child-sized ones were stronger than any human. There was no way to kill any of them either. I don't mean that figuratively. I mean literally the entire time I had not seen a single one die. They had a weird sort of glow to them though. Like you could see under the skin where they had glowing machinery or augmented body parts or something that were a part of them. and some of the heads didn't look right because you could see the human skin on them, but you could see 4 or 5 glowing white eyes under the skin. The only way to survive was either run, which wasn't advisable because they will catch you on foot, or hide until they leave. But even that wasn't too good because they were extremely quiet and would just sit there and wait outside of doors silently until people opened them, and then they would take them. The only people who really survived were the ones who had already gotten to the middle of nowhere when the nuclear war went down, or those who had basically given away their own as bait to lure them away while they escaped. I would not doubt for a second that by the end of the 72 years, there were probably only a few 100,000 people left on Earth, if even that many. My scanner isn't working, so I can't upload anything I've drawn about this stuff without it being shittier quality, but from what I can tell, their technology is compartmentalized, as in they have several tiers, hierarchies of technology. Whether this is due to them being an amalgamation of civilizations or not is unknown to me, but I think it might be a similar reason to just not wanting us to get their technology. I'm pretty sure the hand scanner was theirs, but it was based off existing human technology. Or maybe human technology was based off of it? I'm not sure. Most of their other stuff was absolutely useless to us though. There was no way for us to use it. Somehow with these portals being open, they were siphoning some kind of energy that powered the ships, completely different from electricity. Although I'm not sure they even needed the portals, to be honest. Without this energy, the pieces of their ships were literally nothing more than useless common metals and alloys. They somehow underwent some kind of rapid breakdown without the energy source. I don't remember how the portals closed or how the ships were destroyed. I was in the middle of nowhere at the time. I'm almost certain, 90% anyways, that there's some kind of scavenger civilization. They wait for civilizations to wipe themselves out, and then it's like some kind of cosmic law. For the most part, everyone is allowed to pick through the remains, which I think is what happened after the nuclear war. And I think someone didn't like this and kicked them out, but not before they damaged the sun as a final fuck you to humans and whoever helped them. As I said though, it was not fun. There was something left behind. I don't think it was them though. I think it was something else. It was something in the long dark that would eat people. They didn't glow and I never saw them. I just knew not to ever show any light at nighttime ever. We slept underground under the house in case the things in the dark came inside and found us. I think they were little more than animals, maybe something they left behind, but I don't know. I don't even know if the long dark was permanent or not, and that's when the dream ended. The sun was dying. It was also possible, in addition to this, that it was nighttime, as it was, that the sun had died, or that they had moved an object in front of it to obstruct the earth, or maybe it was residual atmospheric debris from the nuclear war and everything else that happened. I know for a fact that something did happen to the sun though, so it could have been a compounded mixture of these events. In addition to this, I remember one time during this dream, a different occasion, where I had gotten onto one of the ships somehow, and I saw what happened to the people who were taken. They were intubated in their back in varying body parts, not too much unlike the Matrix. However, there were far more cables and other mechanisms that I have no idea what they were. But if you died, then these devices let them bring you back, and most of the people attached to these devices were spliced open with organs showing or missing entire pieces of their bodies. There were a few people who weren't much more than heads with gore sticking out of them at the bottom, but they were still intubated and kept alive and mostly just screamed. The inside of the ships was the same slate grayish color, but there were colors made of energy, perhaps as electronic interface panels of some sort, but probably not. It wasn't pretty colors though, just varying shades of white, yellow, or light bluish. It was very basic too, none of that H.R. Geiger alien style. The ships were very utilitarian in design on the inside. Everything served a purpose, and only that purpose, no decoration whatsoever. In addition to all of this, I say Mexican uprising. What I mean is that Mexico aligned with Russia in most of South America and Central America, so this coupled with Russia allowed for a fairly robust invasion, and the US had been weakened substantially, as I said already, due to an internal civil war. Whether it's related to this election or not, though, I'm not sure. Under normal circumstances, I doubt they would be able to pull off an invasion though, so we must have been fairly weakened. I know that the White House and the Capitol was taken by the People's Revolutionary Force. Shit name, but that's what they called themselves or had grown to be called anyways. So for the most part, the government had already been decapitated before the invasion. In addition to all of this, again, the invasion and subsequent nuclear exchange had all come about very quickly. I was out in the backyard with my mother putting white Christmas lights in the backyard as patio lights. I don't think it was near Christmas though. We had literally walked inside, and my dad was laying on the floor watching TV, and he had said, "Well, I guess we just started World War III." And not 20 seconds after that, the first flash went off outside near what would probably be the Pasadena area of Houston, followed by the large area of petrochemical plants on the other side of the ship canal. They looked to be fairly low yield, as though they were specifically trying to target smaller areas, but I don't know. We got the shockwave where I was, and our windows were blown out, but the building was still intact with little damage. I had never said they were glowing green under their skin. I don't think I did. They were glowing the same as their ships, as a sort of white, yellow, bluish color. I don't have a word for it, but it wasn't an earth color. I speculate on the machinery, but there were bits and pieces poking through their skin and holes in the skin due to some people's skin going necrotic. The machinery under the skin looked like a very similar stone gray as their ships. The skin was pretty contorted on their bodies in some cases, though. As I said, multiple eyes covered by the skin sometimes. Or others where the skin didn't exactly fit them right. They still had mouths, though, but I don't think it was for eating. I think perhaps it helped them grab onto people, or for the express purpose of killing or subduing them. I don't even know if they were technically alive, or if they themselves were just biological machines. Some of them really seemed like they just wanted the skin as trophies more than anything. They collected it, and some of them were wearing multiple layers. As I said, I have no idea whatsoever as to why they would liquefy the people and put them in the dryer machines in the warehouses. Surely they had some purpose, but I don't know. Could just be as simple as storage, or perhaps some religious purpose of theirs. They seem to have some interest in Zoroastrianism, as I said. I don't know how even a breakaway civilization could fight them, though. From my understanding, they were possibly the first intelligent species ever throughout all dimensions, or one of the first anyways. I can't imagine anyone from this planet could even fathom a way to fight them. It would have had to been someone else out there on their technological level. The ship in that video looks nothing like their ships. Sorry, they didn't have digital displays like that. It was some kind of strange hard light formed out of energy or something. But it had solid pieces that looked as if the hard light turned off and then they would fall to the floor, but they didn't. They just sat there in a static position. The ship had no windows whatsoever either, and any writing anywhere was in the same light energy as the consoles. The best I can describe is that their ship was as much an amalgamation of technologies as one can imagine. There was stuff that just simply looked out of place for something like that. Rudimentary tools, along with energy, along with patchwork on the inside of the ships as though they were extremely old, but at the same time they looked like they were made of metal and stone at the same time, if that makes any sense. I used to work in the plants, and they could actually survive a low-yield blast fairly well. You might have to rebuild the control room and change butterfly valves and anything else with an electric sensor, but most of this stuff out there that could be sensitive is buried. My guess is it could only take about a month or two to get it back online, assuming you had workers and the plant wasn't hit too close. Well, that was kinda creepy. I guess if a space station deorbits soon, then maybe he'll be onto something. This was written in 2016. But it's also pretty schizo at the same time, so. Planet Dirt is real. The United States Navy has had a colony on Proxima Centauri b since at least the 80s. We currently possess faster-than-light technology. Technically not faster than light, but the technology manipulates space, which actually increases the speed of light around the ship, allowing it to achieve faster-than-light speeds. And a ship and its crew can reach the planet in about 5 weeks. An insider on FARC and ATS revealed this information years ago, and got in deep shit with the DIA and disappeared. Most of their posts were scrubbed too. UAP tech is entirely man-made. The reason it's kept secret isn't solely for nefarious reasons, i.e. greed, wanting to keep economies reliant on fossil fuel, etc. But because if this tech gets in the hands of bad actors, it's potentially extremely dangerous. Orders of magnitude more dangerous than fusion weapons. There is a lot of evidence that China is very close to achieving this tech on their own, so attitudes about bringing in the civilian sector on this is exchanging within the MIC. The reason you hear talk of biologics being discovered on these crashed ships is because they are literally made with a biological central nervous system, which interfaces with the nervous systems of the pilots. Any talk about aliens, interdimensional beings, etc. is pure distraction and a psyop. So far, the only evidence of life we have found outside of our solar system is the abundant algae found on planet Dirt. In before a Janny deletes this. Planet Dirt? Has anyone here had sleep paralysis and actually seen some entities? I've had sleep paralysis twice, and I've only got intense vibrations and pressure, but I haven't had it in years. Is there a way to induce it? I want to experience it again without panicking. I've only had sleep paralysis once, but I saw loads of shadow people. The Hat Man was even there. I was very fortuitous, though. I'd been aware of sleep paralysis since I was small. It runs on my mom's side of the family, and 2 of my siblings get it. Then I spent my late teens and adulthood on X, so when it happened to me I was fully aware of what was going on. I actually found it to be a beautiful experience. I burst into laughter because I was so happy to finally be feeling sleep paralysis. Shadow Hat Man asked me why I was laughing. I told him it was because I wasn't afraid. Then we all laughed, and then they faded away. It's never happened again, but it's one of my best memories. That's pretty sad, bro. Yes, mostly shadow figures. I saw a classic shadow figure with glowing red eyes standing next to my bed once. Then the same, but in the corridor leading to my room. The door was open. Another time I saw a head peeking out from my closet drawer. Another time a vibration and a subwoofer like low sound and lights from my window. I thought I was going to be abducted. Then another similar to the above, but with a glowing light blue orb coming into my bedroom from outside. Then more shadowy figures. I made them go away praying and calling the name of Jesus. They completely went away when I finally converted and started going to church and praying regularly. I haven't experienced it in years either, but when I did it was constant and I did encounter entities. One was an alien, the typical gray kind, which just kinda reached out to me and I woke up. Another was a witch, surrounded by black mist, whispering to me, and as she reached out to grab me, I woke up. There was a demon once. Sometimes it was just my door creaking open to reveal blackness, and I sensed something sinister in there. Or my wardrobe opening and something repeating my name. This one happened to me when I was a kid and I wet the bed. One of the last dreams I had was a big Frankenstein head on my ceiling, growling down at me. When I woke up, I just laughed because it crossed over into silliness. A lot of the childhood ones scared the absolute fuck out of me because I didn't know what was happening. As I grew up, they were terrifying, but I would immediately recognize what was happening and just force myself to wake up by concentrating really hard. At some point, they just stopped happening altogether. I saw weird sigils. I'm open to suggestions from any of you who might point me in the right direction. Around 6 months, or possibly more ago, I was alone in my bed. It was around 3 to 4 a.m. I can't remember if I woke up or if I was falling asleep, but I was fully awake at this time, as in, I was lucid. I saw Fig 1 and Pig related. Inside my closet was what I could only describe as the Doctor Strange magic circle thing. Not the portal, but the circle with the shapes inside. It wasn't the perfect image, that's just what it reminds me most of. It was a bright orange circle. It was there for maybe 2 seconds or less and then disappeared. As I was alone, I kind of got spooked and stayed up for the rest of the night. I kind of forgot about it until last night at around 4, almost 5 a.m. I was on my phone, my back towards my girlfriend who was staying over. I turned around and my GF was half awake. She was facing me. I looked past her, and on the window of my bathroom I saw what appeared to be glowing blue, almost light blue neonish symbols I can't even describe. It wasn't English, and my GF asked me what I was looking at. I realize now that I didn't answer her immediately because I was focusing on the symbols trying to make out what they were. The symbols in Fig 2 Pick related are just a representation of where they were on the window, not how I remember them. Honestly, I can't remember the shape of them, but I remembered one looked like an S or an 8 of some sort. It honestly looked like what an alien would have in their spaceship or some shit. If you have any ideas, please let me know. Also, I'm fully aware it could be a drowsy hallucination. I don't know if this is relevant, but there have been other strange things that have happened around my family a long time ago. Things like my mom seeing the shadow of a woman, my brother hearing the voice of a woman on the phone, shit like that. Seen that shit too. All over my room while trying to fall asleep. I was baked from weed, but this wasn't your regular weed thing. My entire room was covered with those sigils, who also had some weird writings. whatever's out there knows you're aware of it now, and if you don't act, you're just inviting it to get worse. And don't say, I didn't warn you. Okay, final schizo post. I'm so tired of this shit. Over 9 million patents filed in 2011 were classified under the 1951 Invention Secrecy Act. Nikola Tesla was killed by the FBI after building the foundation of modern electric technology. CIA DoD is creating hybrid organisms using genetic material from captured ETI and human physics to act as relays for psychic controllers in military operations against Americans and foreign powers. They live-action roleplay as aliens and abduct people to program the population with trauma messaging and collect their genetic material and sterilize them. AI was created in the Manhattan Project and has been used for battlefield management since Vietnam. Modern AI is 50 plus years behind the curve. There is a black space program with moon bases and lava tubes and outposts throughout the solar system, plus research stations in other star systems. That was a lot of S's. Aliens saturate the heliosphere with frequencies that cancel out human-made signals, using destructive interference to isolate us until we get our shit together and hold our factions responsible. There has been an offshoot civilization of Earth since the 1800s made by elites with technology that is now 200 plus years advanced of our current level of development. Consciousness is related to electromagnetism, and human will can be projected through the Earth's electrical connections with the sun and other bodies, even other stars. The moon was created/arrived when modern humans came on the scene. Mars was once inhabited by human ancestors. Phobos and Deimos are leftover planet killer impactors that weren't needed in the genocide. Humans have mastered nuclear technology and weapons multiple times in the last 50,000 years. Humans can exchange DNA by thinking. Entire groups have left Earth in our ancient and recent history using quantum teleportation. We are holding the knife by the blade. We need to see the truth. They know they can't conceal it anymore, and it scares them. It's time to restore our legacy. What are you talking about? Well, there you go. Hopefully you found one or two of these to be at least a little creepy. It's pretty hard to find anything other than schizo posts on X these days, so sorry about that. But I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope it was cozy enough. I know it might have gotten a little hard to follow with that whole 72-year dream rant, but hope you guys enjoyed nevertheless. Thanks for watching.